Sweden rolls once again, this time at DreiechCon in Dreieich outside of Frankfurt, Germany. Andreas, was there for a few days and managed to squeeze in a few interviews and a panel on the future of RPGs, which is what you will be listening to right now.
Second day and last day of the convention. I'm really happy to see you all here. We are going to talk about the future of role-playing. Really quick thing before we start. We're going to do this in English because we have international guests here, which is what makes this talk so valuable. We want to get the different points of view combined on stage. So let's see how different people from different parts of the world look at this topic. But since most of you are probably German, I just wanted to let you know that if there's something you don't understand, please do me the favor and raise your hand to let me know, and I can also translate or say something again. I just want to make sure that we're not excluding anyone because of the language barrier. Okay?
Should you have said that in German?
If you're okay with what I just said, you understood what I said, can you quickly raise your hand just as a check? Whoa! Hey, that isn't working. Nice. Alright. So that means we can get started here. Just on time, 11 o'clock. Hope you're all awake. Let's get started. So, very welcome to this event. I'm Ras. I'm one of the organizers of DreiechCon, and I wear many hats. One of the things, I'm also the president of Redbo. I used to work in the game industry for 7 years in the United States. I was co-visitor to the coast as some other people, at least one guy here as well. Actually, let me start the introduction to my left. You can all introduce yourself because you're better at it than I am. But first of all, let's welcome Chris Pramas. Yeah, Chris, can you give us a quick introduction of who you are, what you do, what you're known for?
I'm the founder and president of Green Publishing. I started working professionally in the game industry as a freelance writer and designer in 1993. I had a first company, but I was coast for 4 years, and while I was there, I founded Green Grenade, and this is our 25th anniversary.
Yeah, 25 years running a business in the game industry, that's quite an accomplishment. Especially if you don't just do it by yourself, but you have staff to pay, that's quite amazing. Tobias of Donnerhaus, well, very much welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm Tobias from Donnerhaus. We are the only German publisher sitting here. We're a small design studio from Berlin, and we wholly design mostly... What's the problem? Okay, so you can't hear me. I failed at that. We're a design studio from Berlin, and we design and create all our games in Germany using EcoPrint in Berlin, so that's one of the things we do. We're mostly focused on history and mystery, so if that's what you like, you should give us a look at the booth over in the main market hall. Otherwise, I'm here to talk about the future of role-playing games, which I hope we are a part of in Germany.
All right. Then we have Andreas Lundström from Sweden.
Yes, thank you. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I do RPG soundtracks for many of the free league games like Dragonbane, Vaesen, Forbidden Lands, Coriolis. I also have a podcast called Sweden Rolls where we play IGN actors, professional actors from Sweden, playing mostly Swedish games published in English. And I also am a founding member and lead writer, game designer of Nordic Skulls, who are making third-party products and some of our own role-play games as well.
And then we have the famous Ingela from Scotland.
Hello all, my name is Andy Law. I am the founder and CEO of Root Publications, a small print UK games publisher. industry since I was so small that I feel really old now. I started Games Workshop, moved to Target Games, then jumped into freelance, working for people like the good man at the end, creating maps and popping out words, designing games and wearing every single gaming hat you can imagine. Most recently I was involved with designing the current version of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I've mapped for Critical Role, I've mapped for everyone. I do a bit of everything. That's me.
Right. Thank you. So I have plenty of questions for you guys, and as you can see, we have a quite diverse crowd here from a bit different corners of the globe. My first question is really, if you look back at how role-playing was, let's say 30 years ago, right? What has changed so far? Where are we now compared to the past? Well, it's up to you to choose to answer. Not everyone has to, answer this. But if you feel like you have an answer for that, go ahead and speak up.
You can't shut me up. I'll dive in. So, gaming for me hasn't changed at all. I'm doing exactly the same thing that I was doing 30 years ago, but it's also completely different. When it was 30 years ago, I was doing everything by hand. I was doing little illustrations, little maps myself, giving them to my players. If I wanted a handout from a book, that handout came from the book, which sounds ridiculous nowadays, where often you'll have PDF extras for whatever book you have, or you'll have it as part of an online gaming platform. I, however, personally still game almost exclusively with face-to-face. But most of my friends don't. They game online because it's the only way that they can easily access players. So one of the biggest changes, particularly over the course of the last 5 years since COVID, has been everyone migrating online and finding new ways to play. One other, I'd say, really big difference between where I was 30 years ago and now is that so many more people are buying books to read and not play, which is a bit of a shock for many, particularly when I was a kid. You bought books because you desperately wanted to play them. You wanted to get involved with them, stuck in it, and no one else bought them. They were that weird corner of the store that you went over and visited and went, here's my copy of the new game, it's gorgeous, I'm going to play it, as you leaf through it. Where nowadays, an enormous number of people are buying books purely to read. So as a games producer, it completely changes how we're putting books together, at least for myself, where you've got to think about people who are working their way through a book as a work of art, as something to read, something to enjoy, something to go up on their shelf, something to then, sadly, sometimes gather dust. And our job is then to try and ensure that people move on to actually playing the games, not just reading them and thinking that they look pretty on the shelf. But for me, the biggest change has been moving online. Everything has shifted there, and using these things, computers, devices, laptops, our phones, whatever else it might be, to handle all of the mechanics of the game, meaning that sometimes some games that are mechanically horrendous and truly difficult suddenly become very easy to play at the tabletop, because all of the actual mechanics are handled by a device or an online platform. And games that may have been difficult and particularly, let's say, not user-friendly, suddenly become much more capable to play than they were before. The industry has shifted significantly. Having said that, though, if we go back 30 years, the games we were playing were super complicated, crunchy, super crunchy in comparison to many of the games that are getting created today, which in a post-critical role world are narrative-driven. So many of them have narrative as a primary focus, meaning that a lot of the game designers out there are creating new rules for how to control narrative rather than how to control your actions at the table. And the newest games sort of try to bridge both, often unsuccessfully. They're just trying to do the narrative because we want to do the critical role thing, but they also want to have the crunch that they had when they were kids. And it makes for an interesting outcome at the end of it. There you go.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm also old. So there have been huge changes in the gaming and game industry. One of the biggest is that the barrier to entry has become much, much lower. So when I started my first company, people were still doing paste-up layout, which is a very onerous process to lay out a book. If you were going to print anything, you needed to print like a minimum of 1,000 copies, so you had to have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of talent and so on. But nobody was selling PDFs 30 years ago except for hero games, who sold them on 3.5 computer discs. So before digital distribution of anything. But since then, there's PDFs that are going to be business and gaming. Print on demand has also changed a lot. So, I definitely noticed the point at which I would see a small publisher at DreiechCon, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I printed 25 games to print here. And yeah, they would only print 25 games. It was just so strange to me. Supervised for tabletops, that was power boosted by COVID, because suddenly we were getting face-to-face anymore. And then there's just been so much variety in design as well. The 90s were the era of the White Wolf metaplot, and a lot of people follow that model as well. I think we've got over that by and large. There's the variety of games now is huge. Honestly, it's overwhelming. But there's also tons of creativity. So some can call it golden age, even, except for the money sucks.
So can we talk about, sorry, go.
No, I was just going to add a little bit at the end about diversity and accessibility. Of course, being a much bigger thing now than back then. I wasn't a game designer back then, but I was a gamer back then. And so many games now are super easy to access, as opposed to the tomes that you mentioned before. And as an actual play producer, I also want to talk a bit about, that you mentioned Critical Role. So many role players now, they don't have a group to play with, even online, but they access role-playing games through watching actual plays, which is, if you would have said to anyone 30 years ago, people are going to be sitting watching other people play role-playing games, you would have thought them insane. But today, millions and millions of people are watching other people's play, and it's a great thing, I think.
Yeah, let me latch on to that and actually pass that question directly over to you. So if you mentioned accessibility, what other elements are there that you cannot go without as a designer, at least nowadays? What do you need to pay attention to when you create a role-playing product that is an absolute must these days, and that wasn't maybe so important 30 years ago?
One thing we learned really quickly is that many people demand much better quality illustration, for example. So quality demand has gone up through computer games too, because people are just accustomed to it now. There's one thing on the design level that you just need to have a certain quality to be recognized as viable, especially if you want to sell more than 100 copies. But people also demand better design rules, because computer games have made game knowledge more accessible to anyone. Everyone knows what the hit point is. You could probably ask a teacher and you would know what the hit point is. 20 years ago, this kind of game literacy didn't exist. So we need to follow that and understand where the players are now, to design for them in a way that they don't waste their time learning things they already know, but we still give them all the knowledge they need to start immediately. For example, in our games, we try to tutorialize at the beginning of our game. Because we learned from computer games that tutorials not are only really good for people, but they're also a make or break point in the beginning when people get frustrated and might not play again. And I wanted to keep playing, so I need to really tailor-make this experience for people to start and finish with about at least 90% of their time. They should not waste more than 10% of their time doing, let me be frank, bullshit tasks, because we don't want to do those. They're not fun. We all lack time, which is the biggest problem I see in our industry. People don't have time anymore, especially to get together with people that are all over the world. And I really hate the switch to online play, to be honest. I think a lot is being lost there. It's like the thing you do because you want to, but it's like you want to drink a beer in the evening, and you can get together with a couple of friends online, but it's much cooler in a beer garden. It's just a different experience, and one of the challenges for the future of role-playing is to keep those special feelings that come from playing at a table somehow, and make that accessible to you, while making online play viable.
I'm just going to really short one. Yeah, a really short one, because what you said about, I think an elevator pitch, a good elevator pitch is crucial these days, because there's so many games coming out, and you have to be able to tell people or show people in like 30 seconds what is this game, because there's so many games out there, and if you don't have the financial muscles for a big PR campaign, or if you don't have a huge actual play podcast to showcase your game, you really need to be able to tell people what is the thing with your game, because there's thousands and thousands of games now.
I'm going to take this from a slightly different angle. I'm going to take it directly from what I need to make games, since that was, I think, the question. Hope I heard it right. And in the last 10, 15 years, game development for me has completely changed. Beforehand, it was a solitary exercise, me at home, on a computer, tapping away, furiously putting words on the screen, or drawing something. Nowadays, it's an online shared experience. We've got Google Docs, for example. Whether I'm making a miniatures battle game, a role-playing game, a board game, all of it goes online. All of the contributors who can be on different continents in different parts of the world are all able to share those documents, access those rules, make comments about them, and make it better. Meaning that we've got all the tools that we've had in the past, but we also have all the new tools that the internet access provides us. We've had the internet for freaking ages now, but it's only really been, for me at least, in the last 15 years that it's really consolidated when it comes to building games. The team that I work with most are located in Europe, US, and the UK. And yes, sadly I have to mark UK separate. Let's not get started. But it's seamless. We're all working together. And it is completely different to what it was like before, where the only way to really get the same feeling was to all be in the same room. And yeah, sure, we're all getting together every year, and we're still sharing spaces in that regard, because face-to-face is always better. But we're in a position now where we can build much more easily better quality books, where beforehand you were passing files between yourselves. And then that was slow, rather than doing it live, sometimes talking to each other live at the same time. So you're talking to each other, saying, oh, we can do this, oh, we can do that, we can add that in, and you're seeing your edit go into the document live. That is completely different to what it was just a decade or so ago, where it was passing files, and the whole process was significantly slower and significantly less collaborative. So for me, one of the biggest benefits that we've had in the most recent years has been the dawning of shared spaces online, and exactly how we can work together to build better teamwork. Yeah.
Are there any things that we do nowadays in gaming that you don't really understand or can't really follow? I mean, you already mentioned, all this online game is, I see that in critical, in a personal way. Basically, it's not for me. Are there other things where you would say, this is happening, but it's not for me, or I don't understand why, or I hate it?
I'm going to bring it up. AI! I don't use AI. I don't use AI in my writing. I don't use AI in my art. I don't use AI. But it is an inevitable dawning tidal wave that's heading towards us that is not going to change. The legal ramifications of it will change. What will be and won't be legal is inevitably going to be challenged in court. But the technology is there, and it's going to refine. It's going to become better. Over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, more and more people will be using it as a standard. In the same way that I use Photoshop to create my maps. And beforehand, I did them all by hand. People are going to use AI to create their images and words, and then edit them in one fashion or another to create what we need. And I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing that. That's not me. And I am very much behind a curve that's very quickly coming towards me so fast, it's going to crush me. I'm fully aware that my small part of the business is going to change significantly, and if I don't keep up, I'll fall behind. But so be it. I'm falling behind. I will continue to create curated pieces of joy that I have made with human hands, but that is in no way going to impact the market in any way that I think can it at all stop the great AI wave that's coming. It is coming. Get used to it, because I'm going to have to.
Yeah, I'm going to die on this hill. I will never create anything where anything has been created by AI. I will not be part of a team that uses it. It's very, very tempting if you need to write 10 traps for a dungeon. It's very, very tempting to just ask AI for a few suggestions, but I will not do that. I will sit in my chamber, in my office, and I will write these 10 traps, and I will maybe re-flip through books to get inspiration, but I won't ask AI. As you said, it's a tidal wave, it's coming. I'm going to lose this fight, but I'm going to take it.
There's actually a chance here too, because I think connection is the main part of role-playing games. And there is also a connection between creators and gamers. There are basically two different markets, as I see it. The AAA market, the big markets with advertising money, and the small markets, the indies, where you have a direct connection to creators, where it feels like they and you are part of the same thing, where I create bespoke experiences for people who enjoy that particular niche I can provide. But of course it means that I will not have 50 employees doing it, I will have like 3, right? And I will struggle a bit. I will go to connections, and each and every person coming to my booth will tell me how they enjoyed my specific game. It's a very different kind of being a game creator. If you want to make it big, this kind of connection economy won't work for you. But I think it's a very rewarding thing. But you need to decide where you want to be on that. You need to be very precise about what you provide as a game designer to the people that seek it, because they won't know they want it before they see it. So you need to be very clear what it is and how you are connecting to them. Otherwise, you need more advertising money, and you need to go Nescafe. I'm more like a small-time coffee roaster in the back street where some people know exactly that they will get great coffee, but they need to come there in a complicated way. But it's also a chance, but hard to walk away, right?
Yeah.
Do you want me to answer about AI?
Can you want to?
Well, I just want to be clear, like on the creative side of things, that AI is theft. The entire business model is built on theft. So when you look at big business books that have been used to train language models, 25 years worth of logins are on there, and I didn't get for that. And the styles of all these artists whose works have been hoovered up and all this and that. So yes, if you're a teenager running D&D, I'm sure AI seems wonderful because you can get some custom art for your game and so on. But there's a cost to human creativity and people who make a living off that. We work with many artists, and a lot of them are struggling right now because their commissions have been cut in half because of AI. So we are taking a hard stand on it. We've got a statement in all of our books saying no AI was used in the creation of this text, in the creation of this art, or anything else. And I don't feel like I just want to concede that we've lost, because there is a lot of sentiment that is pretty riled up about how our tech overlords are trying to shove AI into every goddamn thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resentment to that, and also, something like 90% of the growth in America has been AI related the past few years, and they're just promising stuff that they cannot deliver on, and it's like a tulip bubble in Holland in the 17th century or whatever. it's going to explode at some point. So, we're gonna hold the line and see where we go.
I think that, like file sharing 10, 20 years ago, like people were afraid that if we give people PDFs, they will share them, and then no one will buy our books. We're still selling books. So I think there is a glimmer of hope in this AI thing that some gamers will always protect and support actual creators. I think that the tidal wave will come and it will sweep many away, but there will be a core, small piece of the cake where actual gamers will want to support, at least I hope so, but I also think so, that they will want to support actually human-created games. There is a glimmer of hope on the horizon.
Let me talk a little more about gaming styles, right? And how they have evolved, and let's look at the future as well, what we think is coming. This is a difficult thing to talk about because, we have 4 people from 4 different countries here, and each country, I would say, has a slightly different gaming style when it comes to that. Gaming in America is very different if you compare it with gaming in the UK, for instance. Scandinavia has a very unique style as well, and so does Germany. And but it is definitely not the same as in the 70s and 80s, right? That evolved a lot. I think we have all moved to a lot more, playing out your character, story is important, it's not just the dungeon anymore. And the question is, where is this heading? Is this taken over by technology as well? Are we going to see automated game masters that are run through AI? Or does it keep this human component in a way? What's important to people? Where are we going? What do you think?
Immersion. Immersion is something that we speak about in a lot of our game groups. And whether it's doing natural play, I also do natural play, I do 1-for-1 fantasy role-playing. I do that every week. Or whether it's immersion because we watch an actual play and we want to try and encapsulate what they are bringing to the table because they're professional actors, unlike us at home. In the future, in the relatively close future, immersion is going to be significantly aided through a mixture of alternative reality and virtual reality. It's coming very fast. There's already a host of programs where you can slap on a pair of glasses and see a whole variety of cool new stuff, including that gribbly that I'm about to throw at you. That big monster, you can now see it in front of you. It does a little AI dance because it will almost certainly be made by AI. And we've got ourselves our little AI dancing goblin in front of you. But more realistically, as in how it will actually be done, the dancing goblins aside, is that you're going to be able to see the things your characters can see. Whether that's on the screen, which is what we've been doing for about the last 10, 15 years, for those of us who might use digital handouts and we bring it up on screen, whether it's a small local one or 10 years, 15 years ago, I'll try to put it through the TV somehow by connecting it to my PC, whatever it might be. The next step is going to be our glasses being able to show us what's in front of us. When we see a big scary door, we will see that big scary door in front of us and the whole party will have a shared space. That, however, I think loses one of the fun aspects of role-playing, which is that everybody lives in their own head. Everybody imaginatively engages with what the games master or everybody else, if there is no games master, is telling as part of the narrative or as part of the dice rolls that are around the table. And that shared space that they have is individually realized. In the same way that when you read a book, the characters that you see in that book are often very different to the characters that everyone else sees when they're reading through that book. Everyone's got their own imagination getting deployed here. Books rock because of how they allow you to imagine it yourself. RPGs are astonishing because they give you all of that plus player interaction. You're actually engaging with the story. It's a story about you that you are impacting. taking away a lot of the imagination and placing it into tech will be immersive, will be awesome, but will also lose things for many people as well. So I think that the core gameplay experience of getting around the table, whether it's virtual or not, will never change. It will always be there, because there'll be people who will go, I just want to imagine this myself. I just want to get into that headspace myself. There'll be other people who go, I want a dancing goblin. And that's okay, because we all engage with games in different ways. And ultimately, that's where it's going to go. What do we want as individuals? And that will express.
So I would argue that 99% of RPG companies can't possibly afford, turning their games into virtual reality and all that sort of stuff. Like, tabletop gaming started as a DIY thing. Almost every company is undercapitalized. Always. I think that we're gonna, I'm sure video game companies and what have you are gonna try to do that sort of thing, but Wizards recently tried it. They set up a studio in Boston, and they were trying to create something like, playing D&D, but it's like Baldur's Gate, and they just canceled the project because they couldn't make it work. So I think that the small companies and creators, they're still going to be doing things, with actual books and PDFs and whatever, without that level of immersion, and I think that's just true.
I agree completely. My only addition would be that, like virtual tabletop, there's going to be someone that offers it as a general service for all games, and it won't be us to do this. I mean, they might come to us and say, would you like to do this for £2.50? And we'll give you a little bit. You're like, go away! Rather insultingly, but I think it's almost inevitable it's coming.
It could be like a new feature on Foundry or whatever that the company can. Do you want to have this for your game? But yeah, I think that as with AI and file sharing, I think many people will want to still sit around the table. I mean, I haven't met anyone who prefers doing it on Roll20 or Foundry. They only do it because they have no people in their local town or something. It's like I often compare it with going to a good restaurant, eating good food, or going to McDonald's. You would go to a good restaurant if you have that opportunity. McDonald's is just for if you don't have the opportunity or don't have the money or whatever.
I want to add something to the Russ's thing about how different gaming scenes are coming together now and are fusing in different ways. Because as I see, I don't sell books, I sell experiences. And something very true to role-playing is that it can touch people in some ways that are very, very human, right? I can try to touch you about people loving, dying, cruelty. Not every way of playing role-playing games needs to be about fun, because fun only means that you have gotten something worthwhile out of it. And fun can be something that is very fleeting. So sometimes trying to find the core of being human is better. And many AAA companies nowadays try to find something else that is like addiction, or how to manipulate people in using more of their time for their game. And funny enough, the market is now getting the problem that people only have 24 hours a day. And the growth is kind of slowing down now steadily, because people only switch to other games, or don't switch at all from the big ones, especially the computer game industry. And I think role-playing games have this big opportunity to try to find something that is in all of us, right? And if we make games that touch you as a human being, that's something that we can provide that is very unique. Because not only will you connect to other people in your room, you will connect to being human as a whole.
This is actually really interesting, and this is something that I personally experience a lot, because when I'm role-playing, my personal interest here is really experiencing emotion, right? And this is probably also the reason why it's really difficult for me to watch actual plays and stuff, because the style they have there is often, they're not really in character, they're not really deeply into the story. Mostly, someone says something in character and someone cracks a joke and they all laugh. It's good fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't want to criticize them. But it is not the deeply emotional connection. And that I feel in my games, where I'm really that character, and I suffer, and I overcome these tremendous odds and rise as a hero. And that is so satisfying to me, to experience that. And to me, that is a really deep level of role-playing. And I feel like in this really fast-paced online gaming, that is a little rare. I personally, I just wish I would see more of them. Without saying the other styles are wrong, they all have their place. If people enjoy themselves, there's nothing wrong with it. They're doing the right thing. But for me, that is something, this deep, emotional, personal feeling of playing that I don't see in a technological world that is run by AI. I feel like I need humans for that. I really do. And for me, that is the strongest thing of role-playing, how it can really touch me on an emotional level. How do you feel about that? Is that something you agree with, or do you see a future for that, or do you feel like that is going away?
Well, when you say online, do you mean like the actual plays or online? Because I feel like there are many actual plays that I've been a part of, and also that I've watched, that are deeply emotional, where people, I've even had like in one-shots, I mean, mostly those deep emotions come when you play a long campaign and you deeply invested in your character. But I've had one-shots playing like Tales from the Loop, where one of the kids meet their like alcoholic parent, and they have a scene together, and like both the GM and the player started crying. So I think that's it's more like who you're playing with than the like where you play, if you play online or if you play. Of course, it's easier when you sit at a table to find that deep emotion. That's true, of course.
But one thing that you don't have when you just watch it is you don't get challenged emotionally. I mean, while I play, there is always some level where I have to truly engage with it to make it work and to make it great. But if you just watch it, you can just go along. You don't have to be challenged yourself through something like meeting your alcoholic father. I mean, we had many very intense moments in our role-playing games at home. But when we streamed our first game, which was kind of a breakthrough on the German market with some big German streamers, many people connected greatly with the NPCs. Because our game master, Thorsten, was very vivid in making them come alive, and they all had fears and problems and hopes. I mean, it was a mystery horror game set in the Carpathian Mountains in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire in the First World War, and many civilians were, of course, displaced and struggling and trying to get through the times, getting drawn into this story. And since they were vividly described and had interests and problems of their own, many people connected with them, which we saw through the fan art people provided, because it's one of the coolest thing you get as a role-playing creator who streams. You get fan art, and people doing that are so awesome. I mean, they do all the different things, and it's just awesome to see. And that's the moment where I think they had a human moment. But it's hard to provide those, of course.
Yeah, I'll agree. I think actual plays are awesome. I think they do an awful lot of real good for the community and advertising role-playing as a whole. There's a lot of people that just can't engage or have never role-played before. They come into an actual play, they see the fun aspects of it, but sometimes it's deeply emotional as well. It's emotions that, much like a movie, are not yours. So whether you engage with it or not is going to depend upon how it's depicted. If it's depicted really well, Critical Role often does it very well. You'll go, ooh, wow, okay, I feel a bit choked up here. That's really well done. If it's not, and it's just, I feel sad, you're not going to emotionally engage with that because someone's just said they feel sad. They don't look sad, they don't sound sad. But a good actual play will take you along with it all. And much like you were suggesting, the Lawhammer actual play I have has had loads of fan art come in from it because people engage. They love it. They see characters they like, they want to engage with those characters, and in turn they then engage with role-playing as a whole. So I think that's great. Is there anything else that we were discussing on that?
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
Let me move on.
Cool.
So, we've talked a little about gaming styles and what's going on there in that area. Let's talk a little about the industry. So, where's that headed? Are we going to see any changes there? Is the industry staying the same it is, basically dominated by one big player, Wizards of the Coast, and then a few others that are, I would say, actually we're currently in a situation in which a lot of the smaller players are really bringing the innovation into the market, but we have one that is just simply dominating the market. Do you think that will stay the same? Do you think there will be changes there? Are there new opportunities somewhere? How do you see that?
I mean, a future where Wizards don't dominate the market is quite far away, I think, but it is changing. They are losing market shares, but they will still have the biggest chunk for quite a while, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think so, because as you said, many of the smaller companies are doing innovative things that are drawing more people into the hobby. I think when we talk about diversity, it's also about like diversity with different types of games, different types of things that you want people to experience. We have a very small publishing company in Sweden called Bläckfisk, like Octopus Förlag, who do like Blood Feud, where you play Icelandic Vikings, and it's a game about toxic masculinity. So it includes a debrief at the end of each session, where you have to debrief and like, okay, how do you feel about this really? And it's like there's so many games coming out now that do something completely unique, and I think like they are never gonna catch up to Wizards. But I think I heard Professor Dungeon Master say that Daggerheart outsold D&D, the new edition, during the first half year of this year, and that's a huge thing. But of course, that was their first half year as a new game, while the D&D game had been out during the previous year, so it's not really fair to compare it. But yeah, I think that they will still be the biggest ones, but they will keep on losing small percentages here and there. Okay.
No, that's okay. No, I've got something to say. I've always got something to say. I think if Daggerheart was going to be replacing D&D, the current campaign for Critical Role would be using Daggerheart or something else created by Darrington Press. It's using D&D because D&D is their core crowd, and D&D is going to be the core of much of the role-playing industry for a lot of people for a long time yet. There are so many people getting introduced to the hobby through things like Critical Role. And they're getting introduced to role-playing through D&D. Now, you might have personal opinions about D&D where you go, D&D is a terrible game, it can never be used for that. But it is. And in many respects, you're wrong, because it's doing the job. Now, it might not match the sort of role-playing you like. You might be a deeply immersive player who thinks that the games that Critical Role play don't match D&D, because they kind of don't in many respects. D&D is great for a dungeon match. Not so great for a prolonged, in-character conversation about your dad. Because the game doesn't facilitate that. The game gives you space for it, and that you can roleplay in these gaps between the combats. Roleplay now. Are you done? Let's get combating. Woohoo! And that's largely where D&D sits. And that's fine, because that's also where many computer roleplay games sit. You have your long streets of conversation, then you get down to the tactical gaming of beating up somebody. Because that's often how computer RPGs work. And that's often the first place people encounter role-playing. So the first encounter for most people is not what many of us think is the best experience that a role-play game can offer. And that's where everyone else comes in. That's where all the other role-playing games come in after they've tried D&D, after they've tried the big spike that thrusts through all of the industry. They can then peel off and try everything else that everyone has to offer. The true experiences that are crafted to often play the games that they actually want to play and they have seen being played online. And they finally find a rule set that says, hey, if you want to feel, here's some way of handling it and also dealing with the emotional impact of that afterwards as you're dealing with toxic masculinity. And you deal with toxic masculinity, it ain't fun, but it can be super fun as a game to examine it and then properly examine it afterwards as you then take it apart. But you won't get that in D&D. They're not going to sit there and go, toxic masculinity? Yes, here's the rules for toxic masculinity, +1 damage. Ha! Not great.
So it's been the case since D&D took off in the 70s that if you were a role player, more than likely your first game was D&D. And there is a large core of the D&D audience who get into D&D, they love it, and getting them to try a different game is extremely difficult. And basically the entire rest of the industry is living off of the people who are willing to try different games. And so, like for a long time, other companies would basically leave the job of the acquisition of new players to TSR or then Wizards. It's like, well, they have all this money, they can do these starter sets, and all this stuff. And I felt like we shouldn't just cede that ground. That we should make an effort to also bring people in through different channels. So when we did our Dragon Age role-playing game, the mission that I set myself was to take video gamers and show them what was cool about tabletop and give them a different way to enter it that wasn't necessarily D&D. So the way I designed the game, the way we presented it, it was meant to be an easy thing for people to pick up and get into. And it worked. I meet people today who say, "Oh, my first role-playing game was Dragon Age," and so on. But I don't even think it's useful to talk about, trying to beat D&D. D&D is going to be there, you gotta just do your own thing and find your audience and not worry about, what the big hippopotamus of games is.
But since we have you here, Chris, can we talk a little about the challenges that publishers are facing in the US right now? Because it's been a wild ride this year, hasn't it? And maybe you can expand on it a little so that people understand, especially for how it is for you as a publisher now. And we're in Germany, you can speak freely.
I will say it's been nice being here in Germany amongst a whole bunch of people who are just naturally anti-fascist. So yes, it has been challenging. For much of the lifespan of my company, I followed politics and participated in protests and things like that. But as far as the impact on my company, I didn't have to worry so much about world events. And that basically changed. I think it started when that transport ship got caught in the Suez Canal and made world shipping like a giant disaster. And then COVID happened, and then that created all sorts of other problems. And so, and now with the fascist takeover of America, I have to worry what a senile, demented, vengeful narcissist is going to think any given day about tariffs and who's going to get them or whatever else. And so, we print in a bunch of different countries, Colombia, Lithuania, Canada sometimes, as well as America. And, I have to worry not just week to week, but sometimes day to day. If I send a book to print in Lithuania, but what if tomorrow Trump decides Lithuania is giving us a bad deal, so now it's 300% tariffs on Lithuania. It's very difficult to do business in that environment. And also, the whole tariff things, it punishes us, the American companies, because we pay the tariffs. The MAGA people are all like, make China pay. China's not paying, it's the American companies that are. And that, it's not role-playing, but the board game industry is facing really serious problems because most board games have been printed in China for decades.
Yeah, in Sweden, we actually, as the terrorists arrived, we were just about to look for distributors to get our games into gaming stores in the US. And every email we got back were just like, oh, you're outside of the US, sorry, we don't accept any new publishers outside of the US because we have no idea what tariff there's going to be on your country tomorrow. There's no predictability. So we're sitting here with a bunch of English books in English that we can't get out to the US market. And there are people in the US who really want to get our books and really want to get our games, but we can't get it to them because there's no distributor in the US that dares to take on importing 1,000 or 2,000 books from Sweden because they don't know what tariffs is going to be on them while they're on the ship on the way over.
All of that, it sucks. And I'm going to add the unique British perspective, which is Brexit sucks! Okay, so I'm Scottish, I did not vote for this nonsense, and I'm saddled with it, leaving me with a rather interesting place where I have our own version of tariffs just to head stuff out into Europe. It means small press is in a very difficult situation in the UK, where beforehand they had the entire European market not on their doorstep, they just had the entire European market. And they could walk into it, sell where they wish, do what they wish, without any problems at all. Now, I have to spend money, and money to even consider doing that. It's not fun. Just not fun.
Time too. You know, it takes longer, yeah.
So much time.
And we definitely
so
want,
much regulation.
we want you back. You know, we definitely want you back.
I'm coming!
So from our perspective, it was very interesting because we partnered with a Swedish publisher a couple of months ago, and we mutually decided that we will ignore America for a while and instead try to get them on the German market and us on the Swedish market. Because they exist and they are European markets that have a lot in common, and we share a common vision of how to both scenes are very interested in each other because we feel like we're not entitled to being the biggest, but instead just want to exist and be better. So that's what we're focusing on now. But it's of course a problem because the German market is very hard, especially for a small publisher. It's just incredibly difficult to get anyone. Not because of D&D, funny enough, because everyone was talking about how big D&D is. But it isn't, not here. It's like 17% of the market. That's really not a lot. That grew tremendously in the last couple of years because of things like Stranger Things and Critical Role.
Yeah.
D&D was like, you were a really odd job playing D&D. So it was mostly the
same in Sweden.
Dark guy. So D&D was never a thing for me. But it is growing, of course, because of the fusion of cultures through different kinds of mediums, like Critical Role or Stranger Things.
All right, thank you. So each of you can have a quick final statement in which you tell us about the core aspects of what role-playing will hold in the future, and then we will open the floor to final questions from the audience, okay? So, what will role-playing hold for us in the near or next future? What do you see?
I mean, if you're just a gamer and don't have to worry about business bullshit, it's a great time, you know? Like, you're going to continue to see enormous amounts of creativity, all sorts of different ways to play, and all that. So, I mean, I think it's just looking at the future of role-playing, like, it's bright, you know? There's going to be more choice than ever out there. And, you know, if you don't run a business, great. You don't have to worry about the things we work on.
I'm 100% with Chris. The future of role-playing is enormously bright. It's expanding, it's manifesting in new exciting ways. There's all manner of new publishers bringing out new ideas, and the access that they have to getting it before people is far, far wider than it ever was before. But equally, it's a tough market just now. Getting into America? No. As from the UK, getting into Europe? No. Selling outside of the UK for me is hard now. But, having said that, you can go online. It's just, you're not going to be shipping physical product. It's going to have to be digital product, from at least my perspective. From the customer's perspective, it's potentially great, but if you like those tactile books, it's tougher. Much tougher to get hold of them, depending upon where those books are created from. As a last point, I personally have just changed with how I engage with much of the customer base that I had before, and I now largely stream online. I'm streaming every week about Warhammer lore, or about an actual play, or speaking with people like these fine people here, doing a podcast every week for Inside the Rookery. We're doing a lot more of that to engage with folks and hopefully get them to bridge the terrible tariff gaps and accept ridiculous postage and packaging prices for whatever packages that they need to have sent in their way, or just buy digital. It's, from our side, I'm not sure everyone would agree, but from our side, it's a tougher, more complicated market than it ever was before. But from the customer side, I think it is significantly better in many respects than it has been before, beyond getting hold of some products. Some products are just hard to get at a decent price.
Yeah, I would actually agree that it's a really tough market because creating value in role-playing games is much harder than in most different mediums, because you have all those different skill problems you need to get together with too little resources. But I think the key to a good and bright future in role-playing games is cooperation. Not only between countries, but between all the publishers, more or less, that are not gigantic companies, and between conventions, and between all the people out there, that's you people. It's just like in democracy, if we want to have cool communities and give people the opportunity to play together at tables, and not just trying to squeeze 2 hours in online in the evening, then we need to have a good infrastructure that is not being provided by anyone, because there is not an organization with, I don't know, 100 million euros to just do it. It's about local communities growing out and connecting.
Yeah, and I think also on a more personal level, like the future of role-playing games is going to be exactly what you want it to be, because of all the new games and all the new things coming out. If you want a game that does something, either it will exist and you will find it, or you will create it yourself. Because as we said now, you're not like putting actual paper on paper to print the product nowadays. There's so many ways of getting out a role-playing game of your own. You don't have to find many people to do it. You don't have to have a lot of money to do it. So I think, like, if there's a role-playing game that doesn't do exactly what you want it to do, then you will do it yourself, and it's going to be awesome.
Excellent, thank you. So are there any questions from you guys? Yes?
I just want to ask if you see any chance for licenses, like open gaming licenses, helping along, because in the past, if companies saw something like what to register source, how would they earn money? But I think you see basic D&D, not that big for the last 30 years, because it is like close license, and the company decides it's no longer profitable, it will disappear. So my question to you is, do you still think that major distribution companies still are afraid, so to say, to at least give the people the core mechanics to let it live on and increase the chances also for you guys to keep the business?
I think open game licenses are a big part of the future. I think it's many of the big gaming companies offer open game license. The org, it's called, right, where a bunch of different publishers went together and created an open game license after the OGL debacle for D&D. So I think open game license is a great thing. It's important to make a game grow, and I think it's a big part of the future, for sure.
Well, it has already proven itself. The huge boost of development we saw in the past 20 years was mainly the open gaming licenses majorly contributed. Yeah, and I don't see that going away anyway, personally.
Yeah, so when we originally released Beats and Masterminds, it was under the open game license, and it stayed that way, all through up to 3rd edition. And we had a program called Superpowered by M&M, where you could publish compatible material, we gave you a logo you could use, and it was free. And because of what I love it's generally called the OGL debacle, it's true. So now we are going to be crowdfunding a 4th edition of the game in January. And I have to come up with a new licensing scheme for it. But also, 5th edition D&D started what are now known as community content programs, where the OGL stuff has always been free. But the community content programs, you get a little more from the companies, like the art you can use and layout files and things like that, and then those companies take a cut of it. Because we have always had free use of M&M, we don't want to take that away from anyone. You know, there are a bunch of small publishers, primarily what they publish is support for Mutants and Masterminds, so I never want to take that away from them. But, so we're basically going to do a split licensing thing, where there will be a free program, but then for people who want to put out products in our settings, you know, using some of our art and stuff, we will have a community content for them, because they're getting something from the program.
Yeah, I agree completely. Community content programs are great. They get people engaged, and they also foster a new creative space where people can move into the industry where they may not be in the industry before. And they also allow people who've been in the industry for a while to just dive into games they love and create new material that you might never have got if it just simply come from the publishing house itself. Back when I was running Warhammer, we had an entire setup for this put in place. Games Workshop agreed to it, but then I sadly resigned and the whole thing went, nobody really wants it anymore. Possibly one of my biggest regrets, because it would have been a lovely thing to have for the next generation of writers to engage with, having access to all of that material that they can then share profit with when they create new material. And that's just brilliant. I think community content programs as a whole are a lovely next step for the industry. OGL, open game licenses, I love, but I think that they won't be the future because most of the companies that own their stuff don't want to share it. So many companies just don't, and I think it's myopic. I don't think it's very well thought out. I think open game licenses are brilliant, but for all the smaller companies that may offer them, they're smaller. It requires the core pillars to do it, and Wizards will find a way to get rid of it. One way or another. They will make the OGL history as soon as they can possibly figure out how in a way that doesn't alienate all of their audience. They've already tried once or twice. They will try again. Watch this space. That's the future. Amen. Yay!